Go.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to our Learn and Lead session for today. I'm Padmini and I'm co-hosting this session with Uvika. Here's how today will flow. Uvika will introduce our speaker. We'll have a 30 to 45-minute session followed by Q&A towards the end. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat as they come up. And just a quick housekeeping note, please stay on mute during the talk unless you're called on during Q&A. Thank you so much. And Yuvika, over to you. And thank you, Sam, so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Padmini. Sam, super excited to welcome you. We've actually been planning this for quite a few months. So Padmini and I actually met Sam last year through a community, and I believe it was the Microsoft Beta community. And we were just fascinated with what Sam did because he was also educating quite a few people through some of those sessions. And then we started talking, and that's when we said that, hey, Sam, we were going to bring you in. And it almost took us a year. So super excited you're here. So let us tell you a little bit about Sam. So he goes by Sam, but his name is Soumava Dey, and he is the Associate Director of Data and Analytics at CMI Media Group, which is part of WPP. I'm sure many of you have heard of the company, and where he builds AI-powered analytics and anomaly detection solutions for global pharmaceutical clients. But what I really love is that he's someone who doesn't just talk about AI, he actually builds it. He is also the co-founder of Assemble AI, a media technology company, and a co-host of Inside Assemble AI podcast, which has been ranked among the top 10 technology podcasts on Apple Podcasts. And he also serves as the co-chair of Denver AI, where he's helping grow one of the country's most active AI communities through education and hands-on events. And he has more than 15 years of experience spanning analytics, machine learning, and AI engineering. And he also holds an MS in data science from the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign, and in recognition, an EB1A recipient. Wow, that is so cool. So he brings both deep technical expertise and a passion for making AI practical and accessible. And today he's going to enlighten us by showing us how to build a lightweight data quality agent using Claude's API. And I'm going to stop right here, Sam, so that we can actually pass it over to you and you can actually get going and educate us. So thank you so much for coming. Over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Uvika. Thanks for the nice introduction. It actually kind of helps me because I had a slide ready for my intro, but it seems like you already read through it. So thank you. So I can dive into the main business part of this session. So let me share my screen. But before I do that, I also, I don't think so I need to share any additional details on top of what Uvika already shared. But this is just me, Sam Soumava Dey. I'm based in Denver, Colorado, by the way. And I do run a couple of podcast channels, Inside Assemble AI and Data Science with Sam. So as you can tell that I do wear a lot of hats and I like talking to people. So that's why, now I guess I'm talking more about AI building less, but sometimes I look for this kind of opportunities where I can come and show people what I've done so far on a Saturday afternoon when I feel lazy and stuff. So I have tons of, project on my GitHub links and everywhere. And I'm probably going to ask you, Uvika and Padmini, if you can share the email IDs of all the attendees, so I can just do an email blast and share the GitHub repository and everything with them. But also, like every time, whenever I have passion for building something, I just build. My recent project was actually, it was an agent that I built on FIFA World Cup. So if anybody like a soccer guy, soccer nerd here, interested to see my FIFA World Cup app, I can share that with.
Yeah, throw that in chat for sure.
Exciting.
So anyway, so that's kind of my introduction. I don't want to just bore you guys with my stuff about what I've done and blah, 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 but I'm going to just dive into what I'm planning to show you guys today. It's a very basic prototype AI agent, kind of built upon a couple of tools called Pandas AI, which is a Python library. I'm not sure how many of the attendees over here are proficient in Python or did some work in Python, but I'm pretty sure if you worked in a data analytics area or business intelligence and used Python, you probably heard of Pandas, one of the a very popular library. So a couple of years back, I stumbled into this library called Pandas AI. So it was like back in 2024 when AI just kind of like started, is before like AI agent and everything came out. So this Pandas AI company, so they built like a prototype library where they take the pandas, the Python library, and kind of add an LLM layer on top of it. So that way, any data analytics or business intelligence professionals like me can use the pandas AI library to kind of talk to the data. It's more of what like a text to SQL, which is more, I would say, a new AI form where you can just chat with the data instead of running any SQL query, because that AI is going to run the SQL query for you in the backend. Now, I wanted to kind of tell you a little bit about the architecture of what I'm going to show you today, because I'm kind of a visual person. I like showing people that how this data or the application kind of works before I dive into kind of like showing the app or even just giving you guys a quick walkthrough of the code. So this particular app, which I call it a more of a Pandas AI data intelligence platform. So it is kind of like a similar kind of a structure a data intelligence or business intelligence app has. It has a data ingestion layer. Yeah, in this example, what I'm showing you, I'll be showing you in 5-10 minutes. You will only be able to see that I can ingest one CSV file. However, if anybody wants to take that app and kind of integrate that with their SQL database or anything within their small and medium business organization framework, they can always integrate that. So the app actually has the capability of integrating with any platform, like a SQL database or any sample PostgreSQL, or even like, just upload an Excel file and you can just chat with the data. The next part, and this is something some of you, if you're already familiar in the data area, semantic understanding or semantic layer is very important in the data area. And what is the semantic understanding is? It's more about for the AI or for any data engine to understand the data, profiling the data, and kind of understand the relationship between how things happens. Like, for example, if you have a data set with 10 dimensions, what is the correlation between one column versus other column? So this kind of semantic understanding is crucial, especially when you build any enterprise level data intelligence or business intelligence software. Now, in the AI world, right now, as a human analyst, we don't have to run SQL query anymore. AI is going to do that for us. And that's why this kind of solution is becoming very popular. But you still have to train the AI with the data. And that's why the semantic layer comes in, to train the data to train the AI with the data to make sure it kind of learns correctly. The third part is the planning and execution. That's where actually the execution part happen. And I will definitely share this diagram with you all so you guys can take a look at it with a lot of information there. But this is kind of like a very enterprise level diagram for a Pandas AI or similar data intelligence. Now back to this query engine, this is where I guess the main thing happens, like the rubber meets the road, where the engine takes a user query in a prompt fashion, run it through the AI, hit the database, running the query, using the data over there, and share the, I would say like share the report in a kind of a tabular format or any other format that the user would like to check with. And it pass that kind of like an execution layer output to a specialized agent called data analysis agent. And this data analysis agent is nothing but someone who's taking those user inputs, making sure what kind of request coming from the user, whether a user is requesting for a statistics type of question. Like if somebody's asking, well, okay, just give me the mean, median, standard deviation of a particular column. Or is it asking for some correlation metrics? Or is asking for doing a data quality check? So that agent, which is inbuilt within the Pandas AI, is the specialized agent who's orchestrating all those queries and kind of delegating that back to the kind of the query engine or any LLM functions, and making sure that based on the user prompts, it will fetch the report and send it back to the UI interface. And the final part is the Claude. So in the app I'm going to show you, it has a two different feature. Pandas AI itself has its own inbuilt LLM engine, but you can also use a Claude model. All you need to do is to have an API key, and I'll share the details after this call in email, how we can fetch a Claude API key from a developer platform. So all you need to do, get an API key, you can paste it on the app, and the app can use Claude API connections to give you the query or the output that you're looking for. So that's the kind of a simple, like a layer data ingestion, semantic layer, planning execution, which is the query engine. Then it goes to the final specialized engine, which calling all the LLM functions and stuff. And eventually it gives you the data in the UI format. So that's kind of like the orchestration point of view, that it has like it's more of like a modular framework where this part, the upper part, is doing all the backend stuff, all the data fetching, extraction, LLM querying stuff, and this UI part is gonna give you the data, the output or the report that you're looking for. So this is kind of like overall architecture and the diagram of that app. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch my focus to the code workspace, just to give you guys a little bit of, and I'm not going to go down into technical details, but just to give you an idea of how things work. So in future, if one of you want to take a look at the GitHub workspace and want to kind of like play around with it, even want to expand it to build something for your own, data modeling or data intelligence purposes, you can always work on that. So having said that, I'm going to switch to the code workspace. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to be sharing back. But before I go to the code workspace, I want to see that if there is any question from the from the audience. And I'm also going to share some information about how you can set up the GitHub repository that you can just follow along, or you can even set it up after this meeting as well. But let me take a pause to see if there is any question about this kind of AI app, or what is like text to SQL or anything as such. All right, it seems like there is no question from the audience. I'm going to move on to the next item. So let me share my screen back, and I will just pull up the Visual Studio Workspace. So if some of you are, already in the technology world, tech world, do coding, or maybe now you don't do coding because AI is doing all the coding for themselves. Even this app I built, just for full disclosure, I kind of like give Claude Code the whole idea that how I want to build the modular framework. He built everything for me. Okay, I was there just to kind of review the code, and that's the world we live in right now. Is that AI is basically augmenting our coding and any intelligence work, where AI is doing the more of the heavy lifting, and we are here to kind of use our subject matter expertise to understand what's going on in the code, so we can make sure that AI is not spitting out anything wrong and things are sustainable and everything. So having said that, so just to give you some of you who are not very much familiar with the Pandas AI and Streamlit and stuff. So this Streamlit isn't like an UI app, Python library. For example, if you want to build any sort of a prototype, like you have an idea, you want to build an AI app, like within let's say a few hours and stuff, and you want to show it to someone. Let's say you are pitching it to an investor, or you are joining an hackathon, or even you're joining this kind of community for a working session or anything. So Streamlit is one of the Python libraries that I've been using for a while, where it's kind of like gives me an gives me like an avenue to can build an app in a quicker fashion and kind of show it to someone like that. So in the Streamlit library, the way the app function works is that there's an app.py. Py stands for the Python script. That app.py is the main like UI interface for that, I would say the app. So everything is just you will be able to see in the UI, which I'll show you in like 10 minutes, is built upon the app.py. So this is more of I would say in old school days, it was more of like the HTML files. Like HTML files is kind of like render all the UI interface and stuff, and this is just something like that. So again, I'm not going to give you a code works, but I'm just just giving you the idea. This is how the app, that PY, which is kind of holds all the UI elements related code is streamlit. And then from the app.py, this particular app has a lot of different modules, and that modules are all resided in the source folder. Like if somebody wants to take a look at the source folder to understand all the different functionalities and modules there, they can check the source folder. And over here, you will see there are a bunch of different Python files there, and each and every Python files has a different meaning. Like for example, the first one is the Claude integration Python file. So what the Claude integration Python file is doing that, let's say you want to use the Claude API to call the Claude LLM and use that LLM to kind of, do the text processing, the SQL processing, and give user the output. So then when we use the Claude API, that's going to hit this particular Python function and get all the data. Now, from a development perspective, like I mentioned, we use AI to do most of the stuff and stuff. But one thing I always, this is just a pro tip for anyone who building, stuff with vibe coding or AI, but still want to review the code. The one thing I always check it out is that, like, for example, in this part, there's like a prompt section. In the prompt section, you have control over the prompt. So you can make AI understand, or you can change the prompt in such a way that, AI will understand this is what the user wants. Like, for example, this is a business intelligence app. So what I'm telling the Claude is that, if I'm going to Claude, is that provide general insights about patterns, trends, notable characteristic. Give me a trend. Tell me something about the anomalies in the data, or even provide business focused insight and actionable recommendation. So this is the part, you can control. Like majority of the enterprise software that I've used in my day job as well, like I use Snowflake, Databricks, they are UI platforms. Majority of the cases, what we are doing is we're not writing the code from the scratch, but we are controlling everything through prompts. And this is also just a kind of a prototype of those enterprise grade software where you can control the prompts. You can make certain changes to make it more kind of a friendly, or make it more like I would say aligned with your business context, like how you want those data to be formatted from the app. The second one, I would say, like the data connectors, and this is any business intelligence app or data analytics app in an enterprise software, they do have a data connector module, which is nothing but it's allowing you to upload files, and also kind of help you to integrate with your underlying database infrastructure and stuff. Okay, so I'm not a data engineer, I'm a data scientist, but if you take this code, if you give it to a data engineer and ask data engineers that, hey, can you connect this app to my SQL database or my Snowflake, so they will be able to do that. And this is the area where they're going to be kind of like making those changes to make it compatible with that. So that's where this data connector function exists. Next one is exploratory analysis. So this is where actually this Pandas AI, this app, is really helpful, because when you call the Claude LLM, so through the Claude LLM, you get some additional details and stuff. But most of the cases, what happens is that the Pandas AI already has its own LLM inbuilt function, and it gives you all those plots and charts right off the bat. Like you just import the data, and then you go to the exploratory analysis tab, and based on the data, it will already kind of like fetch all the records and just render all the plots and stuff. Now, think about that in your let's say in your business work or in your personal project. You want to like create certain plots. You want your app to show certain plots, and for that reason, you have to make certain changes over here. Like if you want to like create a different kind of modules, or you want to call a different kind of functions or libraries such as matplotlib or seaborn, those kind of libraries. So you can actually use that this particular Python function to make those changes. So like data connector, where you can make all those database integration. Exploratory analysis is where you can play around, and you can make tweaks to see what kind of plots or charts you want to render. And there's a few more, like a multi-agent system. This is also like one of the biggest component of the app, because like I mentioned, the data analysis agent is the main orchestrator, and depending upon the request coming in, whether it's a statistics agent, then it's going to pass it on to statistics agent. If it is just a summary agent, then it's going to do an analyze agent, and it does all the kind of agentic stuff. So it's more of like a thinking about a supervisor based on the request coming in. It's delegating that to different agents based on the request from the users. So this, like for example, this is one statistical agency. This only does the statistic stuff based on the data. Then there is some pattern recognition. So there are multiple agents there. So it's more of like a multi-agent system where all these agents are kind of like combined using the data analysis, the supervisor agent, and the agent kind of like orchestrate all the user requests and provide LLM output accordingly. And then like I mentioned in the previous, like there's a semantic layer that helps with the data understanding. So it automatically profiles data set and builds a semantic knowledge base and stuff. Any enterprise get software like a Snowflake Cortex or Databricks AI platform, or even AWS, Amazon Redshift, like their AI platform, they all have a semantic layer tied to that. So this app is also kind of having a mini version of the semantic layer. So every time you upload the data, the semantic layer learns from the data, profile the data, and then it passes it on to the agent, the next. And the main reason we do that, because you have to create the semantic knowledge base for AI to understand the pattern so it can give you better answer. And the final is the visualization. This is also kind of similar to the exploratory analysis. Like if you want to visualize some plots and chart based on the data you have, then you can just go to that particular section, which I'll show you in a few minutes. And that function, that particular tab is called this Python function. And based on the charts and stuff we want to see, it will render accordingly. So having said that, one more thing I wanted to kind of like tell you all is that if you want to install this workspace, and I'll share some instruction after this call, I will also give you the GitHub link. There is a file called requirements.txt. So this is kind of like the must that you have to install this requirements.txt, because it kind of like keeps all the libraries that you need to be installed in order for this app to be functional. So it has all the, the Python libraries that's kind of like tied to these applications at this moment. And in future, if you want to enhance this app, you want to build more stuff to it, you can just keep adding like more Python modules here. All right, so having said that, I'm going to quickly jump on to kind of like showing you guys the app and how it looks. Right? Can you all see my screen? Just give me a thumbs up.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we can.
Cool, perfect. So this is just the prototype app, something that you can build on a Saturday afternoon. And let's say you run your small business and you don't have a lot of data to deal with. So you don't need a server to deal with your data analysis. You probably have like an Excel file with 10,000 rows or 20,000 rows. So you don't have to spend money on, getting a subscription for Snowflake and stuff, because that's not cost effective, especially for a solopreneur or like a small business owner, right? So rather in those cases, you can build your own app and kind of just have your own data intelligence platform. And there is another aspect to that from a data security standpoint. You are not actually sending data to anywhere. You're just keeping the data within your laptop, because this is actually totally running on my own laptop at this moment. I just wanted to point that out before I get into that. So this is the UI Pandas AI. This is the logo, Claude, both together. And this is just a little bit of summary of what it can do. It's a multi-agent intelligence. And again, this is just a prototype. This is something you can even present to some meetups like show and tell, even like hackathon friendly stuff as well. And what it does is there are like multiple agents. There are statistical agent, pattern recognition, insight generation, natural language. There are a few multiple data sources that it can be compatible with. For this particular session, I will just show you guys a CSV file, but you can also take that, expand the data connector files, give it to your data engineers, and they can always create more APIs and stuff. Like, for example, if you want to just pull some data from a different platform through APIs, you can also just integrate the API over here. So having said that, I'm going to just quickly do a file upload. And this is the data source part, like I mentioned. It has different connectors. I don't have any SQL Server or anything on my laptop, so I'll just do a basic file upload. It can also do an API URL, cloud storage, again, these are all the stuff like data engineers and your IT folks can help you out with if you want to expand this app and build something on top of that. It also has some sample data, but I'm not going to use sample data. I'll just go with the real file. All right, this is an e-commerce sales data with a 15K record. And let's say you first load the data set. It's going to give you like a little bit of preview of that's how the data looks like. And you can just use any of your sample data set once you set up this workspace on your laptop and stuff, and play around with any other data set as well. There is no hard limit from a row standpoint, but since depending upon you, if you run it on your local machine, based on your hardware, I would say that try to keep the row size less than 1 million. So that's why this app is more of a, like, I would say, not an enterprise ready, more of a like a standalone application that you can use for a small set of data set. But in the future, this kind of app logic can be built in enterprise as well. So this data set has a few columns, and this is just a preview of it. Over here is showing the 15,000 rows, column 17. And now let's move on to the exploratory analysis part. So over here, what it's doing, as I showed you guys a little bit of the Python function, so that exploratory data analysis part, it has a lot of different information. So this is where actually, you can see that the AI is being so helpful. Like, it doesn't even take me like a few seconds to kind of get all this dimension and stuff. Let's say in a traditional world, you are doing it in an Excel file. I mean, again, you have to go through all the Excel levels data and stuff. Let's say you're running a SQL query. I mean, those kind of technical stuff takes time. But that's where the AI, especially this text to SQL functionality, is becoming so popular that you can literally get an exploratory data analysis report or anything like about a data insight quickly. So that's where, I mean, I would say that the biggest advantage of using this kind of AI technology to build business intelligence app. Now over here, it's giving you some sort of an exploratory data analysis stuff, and you can always cross-validate this AI output result against the file. Like, you can always open the file, you can do a QA to make sure it's not bluffing or it's not giving any wrong answer. Like, one thing I can show you that, okay, it's showing numeric columns 8. So that means there are like 8 columns that's kind of like denoting numeric numbers. So what I usually do as a data person, I will usually go with the type. So if I count the integer float, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are 8 numeric columns. So AI was able to kind of like distinguish that very quickly. And the rest are categorical columns. There is no date time columns I can see here, although this order date could be, but sometimes, date time columns also look for like a timestamp. So if there is no timestamp, it won't classify it as a date time. So we probably have to take a look at what kind of data is there in the order date. So another thing is very crucial is the null value check. Like, as a data person, data quality is the biggest challenge on our side. And null value check is one of the very primary, like a very primitive check we all do in a data set. And having AI engine kind of like give me the null count right away without me even writing a single line of code is always a game changer for me. So that's kind of like the exploratory analysis part. So I'm going to move on to the next one, the statistics part. Now, let's say you want to talk to your decision science or data scientist, and you want to give them like a quick snapshot of the statistical summary of the data. That's where this section will come in handy. It's going to give you a quick statistical summary of the data that you can share with your decision scientist or data scientist in your organization. It gives you all the snapshot of how many unique values there are, the most frequent data, category, which category is more prevalent, shipping method and region and all kind of good stuff. And I'm pretty sure if some you guys are data nerds, you will probably following along that this is actually pretty cool. Like, given the fact that you're getting all these details within a few seconds without doing any heavy lifting. The next one is the data quality. As this is where actually also human will come in handy, because when I use like any of this kind of solution in my work, let's say I'm using Snowflake Cortex, which is a very like a very popular like a AI business intelligence platform similar to this one. We always try to make sure that we have our analyst cross-check the data that AI is feeding. So over here, like it's showing me like a missing count 6895. The quickest thing for me is just to go back to the data source, maybe just pull up the file one more time and just kind of like check that column to see if it is actually null or not. So I can see the customer rating column does have some null values. So all we need to do is kind of just cross-validate that one more time. And I think that's where the human analyst is still come in handy, because one thing I believe that even though we have all these AI toolkits and stuff that helps us doing data analysis quickly, but that does not undermine the importance of having a human data analyst. And I want to say that because I've been saying that in multiple forums, you still need a data analyst to kind of understand whether the data coming from AI engine is correct or not. So that's where you need the subject matter expert. Similarly, you need a software engineering or someone with the Python programming knowledge kind of mindset to go through the code workspace that I walked you guys. So that way at least we'll understand that if something goes wrong, we know which Python files to go and fix it. So that's where human plus AI, that collaboration is more important. And this is kind of like one of the example that I wanted to just share with you while I'm walking you through this app. Now we went through the exploratory app, and there's another thing, one of my favorite part about this exploratory analysis section is the correlation matrix. In a data science world, correlation matrix is one of the kind of like salient factor to determine which particular columns or predictors you will use to build a model, right? So this kind of statistics would help a data scientist like me to understand how the fields are correlated, if they're strong or less correlations, and based on that we can determine which columns would be a better predictors from the data set for building a predictive models and stuff. And it also gives you some sort of statistical informations. Some of them, I don't think so I trust them. I still want to see the data and do it by myself. But it's nice to have some sort of a feature like that where still you're going to get some insight quickly without spending any time writing any code or even like churning through the data. And then the final part is distribution, which is just a mathematical formula or like mathematical, like a summary of the data. Okay. Now the next part is, which is the favorite part, is the AI-powered analysis. Now we are seeing all this exploratory analysis and all kind of stuff. For that, we may need AI. The traditional machine learning or automation can do that as well. But where AI will come in handy is that it will give you some quick insight, quick summary of the data without writing any SQL query. Like some of these questions, and all these questions are actually generated from the semantic layer. Like as soon as I uploaded the file in the data source section, the semantic layer just learned from the data, and it recommends these 5 or 6 queries. Similarly, like right now I'm using Snowflake Cortex a lot. They also have a similar kind of functions that once I connect the Snowflake Cortex to my table, it learns from the table. And when I go to the chatbot already gives me some example queries based on how it learned from the data. So like, for example, where are the top 5 customer ID by quantity? And this is the data set semantic layer. It's kind of like profile the data. It already learned from the data. Now, if I just click on, so what we are trying to understand is what are the top 5 customers ID by quantity. So what they're showing, these are the 5 customer ID by quantity. It has 36, 34 and stuff. Then also gives me nice little, like bar plots. And also the favorite part, and I think this is something where any data analyst will like that, it also giving you a tips that how you can replicate this particular chart or how you can pull the data by writing code. It's giving you like a coding example as well. So in a way, it's kind of like a pretty useful tool for any data analyst. And majority of these similar platforms are actually giving you that kind of information. Now, this is where actually you can use Claude API as well. So this app has a feature where you can also like just switch on to Claude. And if you run this app, it will give you like an idea about how we can use Claude to do the similar data validation and how to get started. You just have to visit console Anthropic, get your API key, and you just have to use that API key over there. So now I'm going to just stop sharing because so I can just add my API key there without sharing with anyone over here. Just give me 1 minute. Right. All right, so I have the key now. So what I need to do is just to go to this section and just paste my key, save the key, and now I can click on Analyze. So Claude also gives me kind of a similar answer. So there are two ways you can do that, and it's like you can either use the Pandas AI or you can even just use the Claude API. And Claude does have a lot of different function like Claude Insights. It gives you like a general overview, the trends and pattern. So that also you can use. Like if you don't want to use the Pandas AI's insights, you can also just use your Claude function. So there are two ways you can use this app. One, using Pandas AI's inbuilt feature to do all this data insight exploratory analysis, or you can tie back your Claude and can get that data. But for the Claude, it will take some time because it will call the APIs and give you the data and stuff. But it just takes a little while to kind of like get that process because of the API connections and like that stuff. But the overall idea is like same. It just gives you the same data and all kind of stuff. Okay. While it's running, I want to see that if anybody has any questions or anything as such. Oops.
Yeah, can I ask a quick question, Sam?
Yeah, sure.
You talked about the semantic layer and the query engine and everything, but what happens if people keep adding new tables and there's semantic drift and you have to keep worrying about that and comparing and things like that, or even semantic layer goes down, query engine goes down. How do you make this resilient,
That's a great question. I mean, of course, this app does not have that feature because it's a standalone prototype, but I can give you my, from my experience using Snowflake Cortex. So the way things happen is that any semantic layer need to be tied to your database. And like, for example, in the Snowflake Cortex, I don't actually have Snowflake Cortex outside of my company, so I can't show you, but it has a semantic layer where you can add as many tables as you can. Like, for example, you're building a marketing semantic layer. You add your marketing data. Now you realize that you have to tie the marketing data with some sort of a user record or something. For example, in my example, like I deal with the healthcare professional data because I work in a pharmaceutical marketing space. So I have a marketing data, I have a healthcare professional PII data. And if I want to combine them together and add them in the semantic layer, so it can be easily done is that first I will bring in all the marketing tables, connect to the semantic layer, and then I'll add the HCP data. The biggest advantage of all this AI-powered semantic layer is that all you need to do is that, especially in the enterprise world, is that you have to just tell them what's the column that you need to use to join them together. Sometimes they can figure it out by themselves as well. That's why the semantic layer is so powerful. But I hope that answered your question. But that's how like you can bring in multiple tables. From my experience with Snowflake Cortex, you just have to tell them the joining columns. Like similarly, like you're running a SQL query or join two tables, so you just have to do them, and they will learn from the data. And in addition to that, they will also ask you some sample queries. Like for example, over here, when you can see all these sample queries, that you just have to add some of the sample queries and it keeps learning from there. And I always, the reason actually we build those Snowflake Cortex AI UI and stuff, because those are for business users who doesn't want to run query and get the data. So I always inform them, just try to ask questions from different angles. So because more prompts and questions they ask is going to help the semantic layer to learn more from the data and kind of creating those backend queries at themselves. Like Snowflake Cortex, if you go to the admin section, you will be able to see that what query it's running based on the prompt you're passing in the UI chat.
Yeah, that helps. Thank you.
Yep. And so far my experience with Snowflake, but Databricks has a similar function, and all data intelligence software they're coming up with the same. I was just kind of showing you guys a very basic of like a prototype, but this kind of stuff, like, think about like you're dealing with 100 million record. So you all need to do just expand the data sources part and the integration part and build a specific semantic layer, not just a Python, build a specific semantic layer UI on top of it. Like for example, here we just have a data source, but if we want to expand that, so the next section would be once you upload the data, then there will be a semantic layer sections, and the semantic layer section you will be able to view how the AI is learning from the data, and then that's how the things will work.
Sam,
so, yes, yeah.
Where do you add guardrails and all that in this? In which layer?
That's my next thing I wanted to kind of finish. So the guardrail usually happens at the semantic layer level, because that is where we have all the data resided. Because especially, in my day job, I work with PII data almost every time. So we do have security guardrail, like a user level access at the semantic layer. So certain Active Directory group will have permission to the PII. So in my marketing world, from my experience, we are the only department where we can govern admin data. We are the only one who can see the PI data. So we do have a specific Active Directory group and stuff over there. So this kind of app, if somebody wants to prototype or build it for their small business where there are 100 users there. So my recommendation would be, if this app can be built or in-house in a web server, this particular app needs to be connected to an Active Directory, like some IT, cybersecurity guy needs to kind of set up this Active Directory and stuff. And then you will have an UI that's going to give people permission to kind of only to the UI app. Like over here, like the data source, right? The admin people only should have access to this data source. Whereas the business users will only have access to AI analysis part. And that's how we can kind of segregate those Active Directory users group and kind of control their access level on the app. And I think that from my experience, that's the best way, to put the security guardrails. And of course, the cybersecurity engineers can provide more technical details on that. But from a data perspective, that's how, I kind of segregate in my day job in the enterprise world. We just separate the UI app for the business users, and any admin and backend stuff will kind of governed by the AI engineers or data engineers and stuff. Did that answer your question, Padmini?
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's all I wanted to show you all. I will definitely follow up with send a follow-up email with the GitHub link and stuff. This is more of a prototype to show you that how you can build an AI agent using Pandas AI, using Claude, and kind of the massage the data and get AI insights quickly. But of course, this is more of an app that can be scalable to a certain extent. In the enterprise world, you can definitely use a different kind of softwares to add it to that. But if you want to do it for your small business or something that you want to just build an AI-powered analysis app for your own data practices, then you can just build a prototype like that, and you can keep expanding on top of it. Like if I have a SQL database, I can just connect that with that, and every morning and stuff, I can set up an AI agent on top of it. So as I keep getting the data updated in that, the AI agent is going to run on top of it. And there's also another section I forgot to show you guys is that it also has a reporting functionality. Like, for example, if you want to send a quick summary to your executives or your managers, you can just go to the report summary, and it's going to help you to create a very nice looking like a report very quickly.
Wow. Sam, do you have to worry about outliers in your data? Like, do you always try to, capture everything, even the outliers?
For my analysis purpose, I usually try to capture outliers, because at the end of the day, the outliers are useful for any statistical modeling purposes. So we try to just get basic insights about the outliers, so that way we can determine that what would be the R square, or if a linear regression log we are building, if the R square is a little bit of skewed, then those outliers will help us to rationalize that to our business model. I mean, for that reason we try to capture outliers, but it's also a case by case scenario depending on what kind of analysis we are doing, whether it's a time series or it's kind of a linear regression or some sort of a model practices and stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
And
No
and
worries.
if we in Claude, sometimes you share something as an artifact with somebody for them to be able to use it. Can we do something like that with this as well? Or
You can definitely build that on over here as well. So you can actually build, like, for example, when you go to Claude, you can actually ask a different kind of question, and Claude can give you all the charts and stuff. The reason this kind of app is more useful, because this is more of, I would say, a private AI.
okay.
I know, when you use Claude, that means Claude is already getting to know about your data when I hit that API key and it's hit. But having this kind of solution is help you to I would say switch between private AI versus public AI. And that's kind of ties to the security question that Padmini you asked. Like, I know there is also kind of a growing concern about using public AI and stuff. So in a scenario where your company is putting guardrails to not access any outsider LLMs and stuff, and you don't have that operational, like, burden to kind of have an LLM model and build something, then you can use some sort of a solution like this, where you can build your own LLM or your private AI within your ecosystem, and you can interact with the data. But there's always a cost component to it, because even if you want to build something in-house, depending upon the data volume, the cost might increase. But that's why I was at the beginning of this session, I mean, if it is for a small medium business where the data is, the data file is not more than 1 million records, something like 15 to 20,000, 50,000 rows, having this kind of a standalone private AI solution would be helpful for a solopreneur or a small business. But if you want to go in a large enterprise scale, for that, we already have Snowflake, right? Who wants to use the Pandas AI, build the data into this app? But it's more of a, I would say, tailored to people who wants to just talk to the data and get a quick insight from a small files and stuff. From my experience, I don't know how many industry or companies kind of started using Pandas AI, but there are a few, I know the tech companies, they started kind of like testing this app, and there's other apps are out there as well. Like there's a great agentic platform called Crew AI. They also build a lot of agentic systems right now, and they're connecting to LLMs. But it all kind of boils down to that private AI versus public AI, like which one is cost effective, which one is going to help you to secure your data, and you just go with that. So that's why when I try to build the prototype now, I try to have two options. One is like a more Claude, like a more external LLM facing, where you can use API and connect the data with them. Or you have your own standalone, like a function, like a Pandas AI, where you can just talk to the data without jeopardizing the data goes out of the firewalls and stuff.
Got it. Thank you.
I have a question. The
Sure.
Pandas library have been around for quite some time, because I remember, and by the way, like this was great, because I like the stuff you were showing. I remember like wrangling with the data, and this I'm talking about like, maybe like 15 years back or so, right? So, we actually had to use like special tools, with R and all to kind of, figure out. But then Pandas has been around for some time. One of the things I think where people were asking, okay, like with Claude versus not, yes, no doubt, like LLMs are great, but we know that they also have issues with numbers. Like I've seen, like if you ask, Claude to solve a problem for you, it's not going to give you a solution, right? So that was the only thing. I'm just thinking, in terms of usage, right? So how did you come up with this? Like, so can you tell us a little like how the idea came to you? Because nowadays, yeah, so let me hand it back to you.
Yeah, the idea actually came to me is initially when I was doing some data analysis for my personal project, data churning and stuff. And I was looking for something that for that, I don't have to spend any money. Rather, I can build something on my own and have something that's can quickly talk to the data without me just going through the Excel file and running queries and stuff. So then I got to know about this Pandas AI, and I said, okay, I'm going to just use that Python library to build something, a prototype. But idea is that, like this kind of app, I want to tell the community that this is something you can get, like take the app, you can integrate more on top of it. You can even build your own not even enterprise grade solution, but some small business solutions where you don't have to deal with the 1,000 or 100 millions of records, but you can still get the data or get outputs very quickly. So that's why I came up with that idea. Is like more of a prototype solution that the community can get benefit from, and also there is a business aspect to it because somebody can take this kind of app, they can build something. Most of the big companies are doing the same thing, like Snowflake Cortex I mentioned. So their underlying mechanism is the same architecture diagram that I showed you all, is that they are just doing it at a more large scale. But if you want to build something like just for your own business and stuff, or even prototype it, so this is how you can actually like approach it, building something like that. I hope that answers what you got.
No, that does. The only other thing is, if when you say for somebody, with their own business building it, what level of knowledge or expertise would you recommend somebody who's working with this, especially when you're working with these, Pandas library, and when you're looking at out like these numbers and all. So I wouldn't say like a novice would pick it up and start working with it.
I would say that you need a little bit of knowledge in Python, and obviously you have to have some sort of data analytics background, because at the end of the day, if you are building something right off the bat, even if, for example, you're talking to Claude, like if I just upload the same spreadsheet to Claude, if Claude gives me something, I will still doubt that how it's kind of working, right? Because I don't know the backend of Claude, right? But here I can still see the backend because I can still go over the Python script and know what it's doing, how it's going to give me data. So I would say that you need a little bit of like expertise in Python, as well as a little bit of expertise in kind of like data analytics and business intelligence, because you don't have to write the code from the bat, like somebody just build it for you. All you need to do is just go through this Python script and know the areas where you need to make changes to scale it up, or even add some prompts to make your data query more robust and stuff. I think that's where I guess we need that human expertise. I think that's where we still need some programming knowledge, like for the humans, right?
Making sure like what it's doing, it's right? So you can actually course correct things. So that was the thing, right? So because not everybody has a data science background. So I used to work a lot with data. So I know like some of the things that you were talking about. So, and you know that because, you're a data science person.
Any business owner, I would say that if you want to build some data app, try to partner with a data scientist or data analytics person. That person, because I would say I'm not like a heavy coder from a software engineering perspective. I'm more of like an in between. Like I know coding enough that I can fix the stuff from a data standpoint, especially R and Python standpoint. But I would definitely recommend people to kind of like, if they're planning on building some business intelligence and data analytics agentic app, definitely collaborate with a data person with a little bit of R or Python knowledge, especially Python, because majority of these apps are coming up, all these agentic frameworks are all kind of built upon like, Python.
Right. Awesome. No, that was great. By the way, I was just simply blown away with what you did.
Well, this is just my afternoon project.
No, it was good. It was really good.
Yeah, now I kind of like don't write any code, as like I mentioned, even nobody writes. I mean,
nobody's writing it. You talk to so many people at the bank.
Yeah,
they're
the
like,
guy who came up with
you've actually been given instructions. Don't write code.
I right now, while I do just kind of my tips, what I do usually from a coding perspective, if I have an app idea, I just go to Replit. Replit is my go-to platform. I know a lot of people use Base and Cursor as well. So all I need to do kind of like just give a prompt. And I think that's where the human expertise comes in, how you can build the app using the modular framework. So if you want to scale it up, you know where you have to build it up. And that's why I kind of wanted to share this architecture diagram with this group. So because that's the part I want to focus more in future, because I think that's where the human expertise would come in, that how you can build the architecture, not writing code, how you can build the architecture so it can be easily scalable and you can pinpoint issues very quickly.
This was great, Sam. And if you can share that diagram when you get a chance,
can I get everyone's email ID so I can do an email blast?
Okay. Yeah, we can share that with you. Yeah, we'll share
and
that.
there's a GitHub repository I will share with the group. If anybody could go to the GitHub repository, if they want to set it up, there's a README file, a Markdown file, and that has all the instructions.
Perfect. Amazing. Yeah, we'll do that. Well, are there any other questions?
I hope you guys like it. I hope.
Yeah, this was great.
This was great. It was so thorough.
I try to make it very technical. I think nowadays I don't do a lot of technical session anymore. I do podcasting and stuff, but I enjoyed, back to my old technical session stuff. I think last time I did it probably with the other community, but enjoyed, I like hosting a lot of technical
here because we love technical sessions. So you're more than welcome to come here. We'll invite you again, but this was great.
And if anybody
did you have a question?
Yeah,
sorry.
I was just saying thank you so much. This was very helpful. I did have a quick question actually in terms of like the AI analysis feature. If you were to, let's say, re-upload the data set, would the AI come up with a different set of example queries or the same ones?
That's a great question. I would say it should come up with the same question, but it can vary. Right now, I just limit it to 5, right? But if I can tell the AI, right, and every time it's just shuffle the questions and stuff, it can do that. And that's where the semantic layer comes in handy. Like especially in the enterprise grade software, the semantic layer actually has a prompt query section, like a Snowflake Cortex and those kind of stuff, where you can just go in, and as you're getting questions from your business users, you can add those questions to the prompt in the semantic layer. For this kind of app, it's a very basic prototype. I limit the example queries to 5, but you can also tell the AI that, okay, you can just shuffle that, that's where the prompt is coming handy, right? You can always like tell the prompts, okay, every time come up with a different set of question or shuffle the example queries. That answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Phoebe.
All right.
Anybody else before we close out for the night? No? All right. Thank you so much, everybody. This was wonderful. Thank you so much, Sam.
Thanks for inviting.
Thanks everybody for joining. And stay tuned. We are going to have our next set of exciting events coming up for August. And look out for the post for the calendar placement from Padmini and then the individual post from both of us. With that, have a great evening and speak to us.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Padmini,
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.